welcome back. It's Sew Together Tuesday. I'm Teresa Coates, and we are here for another fun cuddle project. I'm glad you guys are here. It is obviously a little Christmas themed around here today. I know it's not quite December, but it's really close. We only have a couple of weeks to do Sew Together Tuesday projects for Christmas. So we got started a little bit early. Thanks, Hawk, for decorating the studio with some lights and fun stuff. And then I've got, Santa hats everywhere because I made several of them trying to figure this out. So that's what today's project is the Santa hat, which is a pattern that we have that's a free download. So of course, before we get started with doing the project, we want to make sure that you share the video with your favorite sewing friends, sewing groups, and then you will be entered to win. And at the end, we will give away, Hawk's hurrying me, a Sew Together Tuesday tote bag and a Sew Together Tuesday mug. And then you'll also win the fabric to make your own Santa hats. So we'll give you a yard of each of the fabrics so that you can make a few Santa hats, or you can use that fabric to make some of the other projects we'll show you at the end that are other Christmas related projects that we've done. So we are using 2 different fabrics today. We'll talk about those. Do I need to tell them anything else before we just get started with the project?
I think we're good to get into it. Hi, good morning, everybody. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays.
Yeah, happy holidays. So it is a super easy project. So Adriana, can you put up the ingredients list and we'll talk about what we need for this? Okay. So we're going to need the pattern, which you can download from the website. So if you go scroll down to the bottom, and then here I said a half yard. The pattern technically says 5/8. We'll talk about it. But you'll need the Luxe Cuddle Hide in Cardinal, Luxe Cuddle Dazzle in Snow Silver. So those are the 2 different fabrics that we're using. You'll also want a felt tip marker to trace your pattern with, the craft knife, the Olfa SAC-1, or micro serrated scissors. 9014 stretch needle. We use them from Schmetz. They are great needles. Flower head pins from Clover, and polyester sewing thread. We're actually using the Mettler Saracycle today. If you can find Metrocene, that's absolutely the same. We'll talk about it in a second. And then we'll want some fiber fill. We're using silky polyfill and a longhand sewing needle. And sorry, there's no way around not having a hand sewing needle. So those are the things you're going to need. All right. Okay, so the pattern, if you have downloaded the pattern, I will suggest that I will require you to go print out the pattern again. So we have recently just updated the pattern to make it what I think is a better size. So we made it, and it turns out to be huge.
The sewing machine size, as it turns out, 30 inches in circumference.
I'm going to see if I can get this off. So, because it is quite hilarious actually to see it on. So this is technically the adult size that's in the pattern as it stands now, which is
where'd you go?
It's a little
Teresa. Where'd you go?
It's a little extra big. So we resized the pattern so it actually fits more, a standard head size and not a Hagrid head size.
Let's just talk about head sizes.
So much better.
Oh yeah,
much better. So this is the current size. So if you have the old pattern, you're going to make one this size. I recommend that you don't do that. You just go download the pattern again. We resized it. So the construction is all exactly the same. It just fits a little bit better. So there we go. But if you want a good laugh, the huge one is great. And
doubles as a present sack.
Totally. So crazy. So anyway, so the pattern is available at the Shannon Fabrics website. So shannonfabrics.com, scroll all the way down to the bottom, free patterns, and then you can find it. Or you can just go to the blog. And if you go to shannonfabrics.com/blog, you'll be able to find the blog that's about this. And it will also tell you the ingredients that you need, which fabrics I used, and give you a link for the pattern. It's also a great resource later if you're looking for the video. So any of our Sew Together Tuesdays that we've done before, there is a blog post for it that will have the pattern and the video right there. So if you're ever like, I remember she did a one, you could go look for it on the blog and be able to find it and get all of the information really easily of the pattern and the video. Okay. Okay. So the pattern comes like this, gives you all the instructions like we normally do, full color. Okay. And then it comes with a pattern sheet. The pattern sheet looks like this. Okay, so it's 2 pages. One side is a pom-pom, And I don't think you guys can see that because the light's reflecting really badly. So one is the hat body, and then one is the pom-pom. Okay. You're going to need to print these out. This one you print out just normal size or at 75% for a child's one. For the hat, you're going to need to print it out, like poster it and print it out at 200% for the adult and 175% for the child size. Okay. There's not a huge difference between them. I think it's like 1.5 inches, but we did some research and turns out we kind of have full size heads when we're kids. So the child size isn't actually that much smaller. You could totally, so if you have a little one who's like 3 who wants this, you can just shrink it a little bit more, shrink it to 150%, see what it turns out like. Okay. So really it's very morphable that way. I also think, I didn't measure it, but you could measure this and do one this size for like a little stuffy. Just saying.
You could.
Be cute.
All right.
We put the big ones on the stuffies, but,
yeah.
But you could do just a little one. So once you print this out, poster it. So at 200 or at 175% is what I did here. This is how it prints out. And I know that sometimes this confuses people because you end up with these pages that are kind of funky and you end up having to put them together. Okay, so I just lay them out and then I trace them, but you can absolutely tape them together. So these are like any kind of PDF pattern. Oh, that's not the right one. They're like any PDF pattern basically, except they're not as well numbered because you're enlarging it. Okay, so it ends up being like this. Then you're going to trace this pattern size. This should be the right one. Yes. Okay, so then I used just interfacing. You can use Swedish tracing paper. This is just some lightweight interfacing that I had that I traced the pattern on. Okay, so that's how that works. And then these can go away. It's much easier, I think, to trace it onto something rather than trying to use the taped together papers. That personally, I find it annoying. So I'd rather do this. It's easy to fold this up and deal with it. So the other thing I wanted to talk about before we get into it is this pattern. So on the pattern, it says fold is right here. So you put this on the fold, except that if you know how I like to sew with Cuddle, it is not with the fold ever. So what that fold means is that that's where you need to flip it. All right. So one way of doing that is to actually just create the pattern that is the full size pattern. So what I did with this is I just folded my interfacing in half. I laid this one on here. I cut it out.
So you never cut the Cuddle on the fold, and the reason is that
it's just too thick and it will move and it won't be accurate. Your second side will be totally different size than the first one. So this way I have a full size pattern and now I don't have to remember to flip it while I'm tracing it out. Okay, so those are 3 different ways that you can deal with this paper pattern. We're going to deal with the whole size right now. So this is the size that we need, which I can fit easily onto this bit of fabric that I've got. So this is the Cuddle hide. Okay, and this one is in cardinal. And then we have the dazzle, which is hide dazzle, and it really is just hide with some sparklies.
I love the sparklies.
The sparklies are really cool.
They make me very happy.
They're really nice. Yeah, they're super cool. So it's the same thing, the same texture, and works really well. So there are a few different colors of that. The white works perfectly for this.
Can I do a little PSA about the sparkle?
Yes.
It is not scratchy. You can't tell it's there at all from the texture, which I think is fantastic. It does not come out when you wash it.
Right.
And it's very durable and totally safe to give to a little.
Yep.
Not a problem.
Yeah. So and it washes just the same as regular Cuddle. So you don't have to do anything special, but like the no heat thing is, important, obviously, and no fabric softeners. So
those still apply.
Those still apply. Okay. So those are the fabrics that we're going to use. So first thing I want to do is I want to trace out the pattern. So in the pattern, it'll tell you what size to make the headband. So the band for this one is 22.5 by 8 is what I need for the child size. So I've got that one cut out already. The adult one is 10 inches tall. So that just gives you a bigger cuff, I guess is what we call that. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and trace this out. So Hide is one of those fabrics that's a little bit weird because the nap is kind of hard to tell which way is which. So I've guessed. What we realized with that is that you could actually kind of nest these when you're making them if you wanted to get more out of your fabric because the nap is really hard to tell. So that's our little secret. Okay, normally I'm like, pay attention to the nap, but hide makes it a little easy not to. So one of the things that I want to do is I'm going to use a couple of my super hardware store pattern weights to hold my fabric in place. Okay, I have some nicer ones somewhere, but I didn't grab them. I had these on the table. So I've got these in place and I just need to hold it just a little bit. And this works well because I can put my ruler on top of it and then just draw a straight line, which is what I need to do here too. Okay. So just draw my straight line and then I'm going to trace around this. And this is where it can get a little bit trickier. So I do try to trace it just a little bit at a time. I can go all the way across, but it's such a curve that I'm much more likely to kind of lose it. So a little bit at a time and try not to get the fabric to push it all. So I'm kind of just barely touching the fabric there. Okay. So my line is not straight at all, but I can cut it straight. All right. So now, because I've made so many of these, I'm going to write what it is. Yes, it's hard to keep track of. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to cut it out. So cutting cuddle is one of those things that people often are super afraid of because it's really messy. And I will say, if you use a rotary cutter with this, it is super messy. We're not going to use a rotary cutter. We're going to use our blade. So this is the Olfa SAC-1 blade that I like so much. You'll see it in lots of the videos, lots of tutorials. This is really what I prefer. And it is super easy to cut with. So we're just going to plop this out just a couple little clicks. And now I'm going to come up here. I'm going to start up here and I'm just going to drag this down the side. Make sure it's cutting. Yep. Okay, and we're just going to drag this down the edge here, and I just do it a little at a time. The thing that I'm doing is making sure that I'm holding some tension on this, so I'm kind of holding it back a little and then dragging it this way. If I don't, it just comes with me. That's not going to help, so I need to actually get some tension on there. And then I just push it, and you're not pushing super hard. And I'm dragging it very flat, so you can see I keep it really close to the fabric. Then just make sure that it pulls apart, and you can see all of this nap that is stuck on here, and there's just a ton of it, would be, I mean, look at this, all of this, normally if you cut this with a rotary cutter, all of this would be floating around your sewing room. So that's what difference this makes by cutting it out with the blade versus cutting it out with a rotary cutter. So I'm going to do the same thing along here. I'm just going to smooth out my line. Okay, because I didn't draw it real straight, but it's fine. And anywhere it doesn't quite cut, I'm just going to go ahead and snip it, kind of. It's not exactly snipping when I have the blade. Okay, now, if the blade scares you, because for some people it does, you can use the Karen K. Buckley scissors or any other micro serrated scissors. These I really like. They have just a little serration in here that helps grab the fabric, and you can feel it. It'll kind of grab your finger real well. And I just slide that underneath here and take little cuts and try to slide it underneath the backing rather than taking big cuts. So again, I'm leaving a bunch on there. You'll also notice that when I use the scissors, I hold it up off the table because that helps the nap to kind of fall away from it and keep it away from the backing. So if I cut it here, it's a lot harder to get the nap off of or away from the scissors. But if I hold it up in the air, it's a little bit easier. And the little scissors, and I kind of keep them pointed up here. So the scissors are running right along the backing. All right. So 2 different ways of cutting it that are really not messy. So if you've been afraid to sew with Cuddle because it was going to be such a mess, you'll see that it's really not such a mess. Okay, so there's a little bit that comes off, and I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to Give it a little shake down low, let it kind of fall to the floor really easily. Okay, get that off my table. All right, and if you kind of get rid of it at the beginning, you're not really going to have any issue with it. And that's part of the problem. And also, you'll always notice that I'll shake down here. So don't do the shake up here, okay? Like that it's in your face, and we don't want that. Okay, so some nap will come off. So again, that initial shed, when we cut it, that's going to be the only time that it's really going to make a mess. As you're working with it, more little fibers will come off. Once you wash it and dry it, it will never make a mess again. Or after you use it for a little while, it's not going to make a mess. It's not going to keep falling apart. Okay. And that's really important to know about our fabric. That said, bringing up the washing thing, if you are going to make this and you are thinking that you're going to want to wash it and dry it and use it year after year after year, wash that red fabric before you get started to make sure that any of the red dye is out if there's any extra in there. Okay.
That seems to apply for cuddled
red fabric
well.
of any sort. Yep.
Got it.
Red fabric is just, you need to wash it.
It certainly doesn't get dull or less red,
Nope.
but some of it might migrate onto your white.
Right, exactly. And that's because to get a bright red, and the same applies to like black and purple, like really dark, bright, vibrant colors. A lot of times they kind of over dye it to get that really vibrant color. And then sometimes there's still some left in there. Red is particularly known to be an unstable color. So you'll find that it fades a lot and that sort of stuff. Okay, so now I've got my hat cut out and I've got my band. And now we're going to pin this on this curve. So we're going to pin the straight line onto the curve. So the first thing I'm going to want to do is find where my center is.
I'm going to come around.
Okay. And I'm going to stick a little pin in here where my center is. And on this side, I'm going to come around and I'm going to make a little mark. I know it'll make more sense later. Okay, so this one I'm going to pin, and then this one I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to fold it in half, give my edges to match, and stick a little pin in here. Now, this is something that you could have marked this at the beginning, like when I put my pattern on here. I could go ahead and put the mark there, and that would be smart to do. It'll save you a little step of folding it, but I tend to just fold things. All right, so now here's my center mark, and I'm going to line that up with this center. I don't want to lose my pin. It's so close. There we go. Okay, so now I'm going to stick that pin in there, and I'm going to go ahead and come over here, and I'm going to stick this pin in there, and then I'll do that on the other end as well, so that we've got the important parts connected. All right. All right. So now, because this is a curve, you can see this doesn't want to do its thing very well. Now, when I'm pinning this on, we're going to get a little bit of kind of pleating, right? Not pleating really, but gathering, I guess is the right word. Just a little bit, because there's more body up here than can be flat. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so we've got extra fabric up here. So one of the things with that is that we should sew it with this on the top so that we can control this, because this is likely to get pinched and end up being like a pleat that you accidentally stick in there, or a little pucker. So we're going to pin it from this side. So I often, like, I've started pinning from the other side, and I was like, oh, I think I need a pin from the other side. In fact, I do. Okay, so I'm just going to, when I add my new pins here, I'm going to pin from this side. Okay.
And I notice in this case you are pinning perpendicular to the seam, and that's because it's going around a curve.
It's going around a curve, and it's pretty, it's easier to do it that way. You can double pin it the other direction, but this is the easier way of doing it, in my opinion. And you can see you can kind of just make it fit there and then pin it. Okay, and just look for your raw edge. So like here, I can see I've got a lot of fluff there. So I can kind of see, oh yeah, that's where the raw edge is back just a little bit. So I'm not going to pin it right against that fluff, because then I would just be sewing fluff, and that's not helpful.
And that's because the nap on the high goes all different directions. And you didn't give it a haircut.
I didn't give it a haircut, so that edge is a little harder to see. Okay, so now I've got it pinned, okay, as much as I feel like I need to. Now we're going to go ahead and sew this. So let's head on over to the machine. And again, I've got the Mettler Ceracycle thread in there, which is a recycled thread. So it's recycled polyester. And we've been using it this whole year. And it's been great thread. So you can find it at some quilt shops. If you can't find it there, Metrocene is very good as well. Okay, so we've got the digital dual feed, which is basically like my walking foot. And I've got a 9014 stretch needle in here because that's what we need to use when we are working with Cuddle. And we're going to use a 1/2 inch seam allowance and a 3 millimeter straight stitch. Okay, so we've got that set up. We're always going to expand, make the stitch length a little bit bigger when we're working with Cuddle. So I'm going to start in just a tiny bit. I'm going to go ahead and back stitch. I don't want to start right at the edge because it's likely to kind of suck the fabric in if I'm start right at the edge. Okay, pull that over just a tiny bit. I need to grab my stiletto, it looks like. Okay, I'm going to work our way around here, and I am going to grab it because it helps me to get that fabric so you can see how it wants to pull over just a little here. So if I use the stiletto, I can kind of grab my red fabric and bring it over, hold it in place. We're just going to stitch all the way around this, easy peasy. It's just a very slight curve. And that way I can kind of see what's happening with the white fabric up here. And I know that the red fabric is going to be flat underneath. So I can just kind of come along. All right. So if you have any questions, make sure to pop them up in there and Hawk will share them.
To reiterate, this is a 1/2 inch seam allowance.
1/2 inch seam allowance.
Yep. And you have obviously the polyester thread up top, but you also have polyester thread loaded into your bobbin.
Correct.
Very important. Funny story. If you use cotton thread, it will sew just fine.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you tug on that seam, the fabric stretches and the thread breaks. Right. And it's a giant bummer.
Yeah. So the polyester thread will stretch quite a bit without popping at all. Okay. So now you're at this point, which again, for anybody who's a quilter, this 3D-ness can get a little crazy, but don't worry about it. It's no big deal. Okay, so now we're going to take this and we're going to fold it in half. Get my pins back. And the first thing I'm going to do is pin the important places. So I'm going to push my seam allowance this direction. Push it that direction. Get these two match up. And I'm going to pin it right before the seam to get that to match. And I'm going to come over here and pin this end. And then I'm going to come up here and pin this end. All right. Okay. So then, again, we're just going to pin in between. And I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to do straight or the perpendicular pins because it worked just fine for me. And it's a little bit faster. But if your fabric moves at all, if it's not moving through your machine very well, you can go ahead and double pin that and it will work better. I'll show you on the
white.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I was going to ask you if you would please demonstrate that.
Yeah. So if you want to double pin it because it's moving a lot, one, reduce your presser foot pressure. Make sure you're using a walking foot. But you can also pin parallel to the raw edge. Oops. And then go ahead and put another row of pins in here like this. And then you'll pin your 1/2 inch seam allowance right there. You'll just sew it right there.
You'll sew it right there. And then hopefully what you've done is leave this outside of your foot enough that you can leave the second row of pins in here.
Right, exactly. And if you feel like it's a little close, you can always move it out a bit because what we want to do is if we leave this pin in, this fabric still can't move in when we take these pins out. So you're aiming for sewing right along here. You'll take this pin out, sew along here, leave this pin in, keep going. All right, so let's see if we can make that work.
Hey, Stephanie, I think it's great the idea that you can pin where you need the seams to match. And I think that this probably works pretty well in quilting and general sewing as well. Pin the thing that has to be matching. Mm-hmm. And then everything in between can be eased or worked out.
Yep. Can make it fit.
At the end, it's going to look perfect.
Right, exactly. So we want to make sure that this is leading in straight So don't let it get too bunched up. Keep it on your table. Okay, and then I want to just make sure that my seam allowances are both going down. So it's going to get a little bit thick right there. And I'm going to wait to take my pin out until I'm real close and make sure it hasn't shifted too much. Okay. Then I'm going to twist just the tiniest little bit to go straight down this side. Okay. So I'll take my pin out. Just going to head straight down here. I'm going to miss this so I can eyeball it. There's also on some machines like this, there I have the laser, so you can see, like, I can tell where the needle is going to go and if it's going to miss my pin, which is very helpful.
That's fancy,
isn't it? It's one of the nice features. Yeah, we're sewing on the Baby Lock Chorus today is what we've got. So it is a nice machine. I like it quite a lot. Okay, so now I can take this pin out. And I'm going to go ahead up here and I'm just going to clip a little bit out, make it not too thick up there. So you can see like how messy it can be when you cut it with scissors because you cut all that nap. So make sure that you're cutting it near the garbage. All right, now I'm just going to go ahead, tuck that in, and then I can grab it and turn it inside out and use my stiletto and pop that out all the way. Look at that, we're nearly done.
That's okay? a two-seam project.
That's really it. Okay, and then we need to sew this up. All right, so this part, I will say, you can zigzag it or you can hand stitch it. I will show you the zigzag today, but I literally did one of these with the zigzag and then I went and took all the zigzag out because I didn't like it so much, which is a rare thing for me. So I will show it, but this is the hand stitched version. And all I did is a big whip stitch. Okay, so there's like a big stitch and then a stitch and then a stitch all the way around. These, they're really far apart.
Like a 3/4 of an inch or something.
Yeah. All right. Okay. But it's just this little thing and it totally looks nice inside because you end up having kind of that soft edge there. And then it's really nice on the outside because you got a nice soft edge there. All right. So then when I cuff this up, I can still see that and it's okay. So with the zigzag, I feel like I would want to put this up and then maybe tack it so that it would stay and I would never see it again. Okay. So that's what I would be trying to do. So we're going to try to do it. The other thing that happened when I zigzagged it is that this kind of got pinched. So we're going to try a couple different things and see if I can make this work a little better than I did when I did it the other day. All right. So I'm going to start over here and I want to pin my binding or my band up here over these seams. Okay. So I'm going to try to get all of my seam allowances to be down so that they're going to be covered. All right. Now, if you were a lefty, this would probably be, no, it wouldn't be any easier to pin. So I have to pin this direction because when I stick it in the machine, it's going to come around this way. Like this. So yeah, if I were a lefty, it might be easier to pin. I'd be doing it this way, but I'm not. So I have to pin it backwards.
I always thought it was interesting that you make a distinction between left-handed pinning and right-handed pinning, and mostly that is because you want to be able to easily remove those flower head pins ahead of the needle.
Right, right. And I have seen, yeah, enough people struggle with pinning and then, or like they'll pin it funny. And I'm like, are you left-handed? Like, yeah. I'm like, oh, okay. So they're, yeah, if you're left-handed, right-handed, our brains do really work a little bit differently. They see things spatially different.
I'm just gonna jump ahead here because I'm trying to logic this and I haven't actually seen you sew this part, but don't you have to put the free arm down inside of this?
Yes.
That would be very difficult, trying to get the free arm down inside of the point.
But it doesn't have to go down there.
But if you were going to turn it the other way, if you were a left-handed person, would that...
No, because you'd still sew it. You're still gonna sew it this way.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep, they still sew it the same way.
Okay.
But they're going to use different hands to take the pins out and to pin. Okay, so one of the things that you can't see that I'm doing is trying to make sure that the part over here is getting pushed this way, that I'm not getting any sort of like a little pucker here, because that did happen before and I hated it. So trying really hard to make sure that that doesn't happen.
So that left hand inside is actually doing quite a bit of work.
So it's kind of, yeah, pulling over the fabric and checking to make sure it's flat. Now, again, this is just a silly little Christmas hat. It's fine. Like, it doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to be quite as perfectionist about it as I do, because really, they might just use it for Christmas and that would be it. We'll see.
I'm going to wear mine in July.
Okay, cool.
Just so you know.
Great. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and take the free arm off my machine. If you have the capability of doing that, it'll make this all a lot easier. Okay, because then we can stick this up over this to sew it. All right, so I'm just going to feed this onto the machine. I'm going to start here at the back because that's the part that will hide easier. All right, and I'm going to switch my stitch to a zigzag. Let me turn off the laser. So we've got it at a zigzag here, and we've got it at a 4x4. So a 4mm by 4mm zigzag is what that is. It's just a nice big zigzag, and it works really well. We use it for binding. You can use 5 as well, and I often do that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do a little lock stitch. So it'll just stitch in place a few times, and then I'm going to work my way around this. So I'm basically doing this like I were doing binding. All right, I want to make sure that this is pulled nice and tight, and I'm going to get this raw edge to come right over to the stitching that I did before and get that to just go right along the edge. Okay, so the aim is to keep it within the seam allowance so that the zigzags don't show on the other side in the red. Okay, I'm trying to keep it all so that all the stitches are in the white area. Okay, I did try to use my new favorite glue stick, the ODeep. We used it a couple times in a couple different projects. It was super great, and it is not strong enough to hold this. So I tried to glue it, and it just came apart. So I did give it a valiant try. So as much as, you know, this wasn't my thing, it might be yours to do it this way, and especially for those of you who really dislike hand sewing, and it does make it much quicker. Okay, almost around. Okay, do you want to come on this side of me, Hawk, so you can see this, the line? Kind of like them to be able to see what I'm looking at a little better. This stitching line there from before. Yeah. So that's what I'm kind of trying to hold that fabric. Oops, I need my arm in there. There we go. So that's what I'm aiming for. So you got to kind of know where to look. That's where I'm looking, is trying to make sure that that's going to come along in there. Okay, so then I can do another lock stitch, cut my thread, and pull this out. All right. So now it does the same thing that, you know, we can see that it will do when it's binding. It gets stuck in there. We can just kind of fluff it out a little bit. I will say that the dazzle doesn't fluff as well because of the little sparklies on it.
Got it.
Okay. Okay. So that's what that looks like when it has been zigzagged. All right. So now I need to kind of come along in here and kind of fluff it up a little bit. And then it, you know, hides it pretty darn well. Okay. So you don't have to be a little obsessed with it as I am, that I was like, but seriously, the hand stitching took, I don't know, 5 minutes. I mean, it really was no big deal. So we'd go ahead and just fluff all of this up. You can see, not gentle, just kind of scratching it out of the zigzags. And if you're using a polyester thread, you're not going to have really any problem with that. I've never had the Mettler break on me when I'm doing this.
And it doesn't loosen up the seam at all.
Nope, not at all. So you go ahead and fluff that all the way around, and then we can do that on the back with the red. Get that out of the seam allowances there. Okay, and it kind of just hides that back seam a little bit better.
I mean, it makes it completely disappear.
Right, right, exactly.
Gone.
Poof gone. Yep, there it is. No seam there. I can't see a thing. Okay. So now we have a little Santa hat. So like this, I guess it's kind of an elf hat at this point. To make it the Santa hat, we have to add a pom-pom. So the pom-pom is super duper easy. And it is just a circle. So again, in the pattern, it shows you a child size pom-pom and an adult size pom-pom. They are these two sizes. Okay. So this is the child size pom-pom, which I didn't start. I started an adult size because we're going to finish that one. And basically what I did, oh, we have enough time. Maybe I'll start another one. Let's do it. I'll just do the child size one and I could do it. Okay. I was like, wait, do we have any time? Oh, we do. We have plenty of time. Look at us go. I told you this was an easy project.
Pedal to the metal.
Okay, so I'm going to get out a big long string of thread. If I can get it to kind of feed through better. Come on. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to clip that. There's my needle. And I'm going to take this and I'm going to take, so I took my big long piece here, folded it in half, and then bring these two ends together. Clip that so that they're fresh. And I'm going to try really hard to thread this while you guys are watching. Did I got one of them? No. Oh my goodness, the light on it is terrible. I'll move it toward the light here so I can see better. Oh my goodness. Okay, hold on. Here we go. Glasses off. Nope, I can't see it. There we go. Whew. Tell ya, light gets more and more important to what I see the older I get.
Well,
Okay.
let's, you know what? We don't ever talk about the lights in the studio. So what's going on with that light? What's going on with that light right there? This is a super cute light. I'm going to show the whole thing.
It is. And I
right?
needed to be closer to it.
It locks on over there.
Yeah, that's the slim line is what
Flexy.
it is from Daylight.
And it, you
Yeah.
can
Ooh, it is
roll
bright.
it. You can move it down. It's an excellent sewing machine light,
It really
specifically
is.
for sewing machines.
Yeah, it is really great. And I should have moved closer to it because then I would see better. Okay. All right. So
say thank you, Daylight.
thank you, Daylight. So one of the things that I do is I actually do knot the end and then pull it. You can leave a big long tail and then pull the two of them together. That works too. It doesn't work as well for me. I struggle a little more. So I just put a knot in one end. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to take some little like 1/4 inch stitches all the way around. No.
And you're at like
Pull it.
about 1/4 inch of seam allowance, I guess, right?
Probably.
Not being real picky.
Nope. And you see I just traced it out with my Sharpie and then cut it along those edges. And it's totally fine. If you want to cut off all that black so it never shows, you can, but it's really very unlikely to show. Okay, so we're just going to stitch really nice and big all the way around here. This is the easiest way of doing it. You could stitch around it, I guess, with your machine with a big basting stitch, but I don't know. The hand sewing is fine. Okay, so we're just going to kind of pull this up as I go. I'll do some more around here. We'll get all the way around. Okay, so for this one, we're going to use the silky polyfill to fill this. And but if you have just regular polyfill, that works as well. We'll talk about what the difference is. Okay. Almost there. All right, so I'm going to just go ahead and take these last little stitches. Oops.
Was that I stabbed myself? Oops.
No.
Okay.
I just took too big of a stitch. I don't want to make it too big because then you get a weird pucker there. Okay, so I'm going to go just kind of past where I started. So it will go all the way around in a circle, and then I can kind of start pulling this in. Okay, we want to make like kind of a little cup that we're going to fill up. Oh, I didn't bring my stuffing back in here. Hold on, I have to find my stuffing. Oh, there it is.
And let's find out how good our microphone range is.
All right, so now I've got the silky polyfill. All right, I'm just going to take some off out of there, and I'm just going to stuff it in here.
And I noticed you didn't really declump that like you did with the regular polyfill last week.
Right, that is the joy of silky polyfill, is that I do not have to do anything like that. Okay, so now I'm just going to stuff it in there, stuff a little bit more. Okay, and I just want to keep some tension on my thread here so it doesn't undo. Kind of give it a little squishy squish. Yeah, that feels pretty good. Okay, so then I'm just going to pull this up really tight so you can see. I've got the 2 threads, so it's stronger, and it's polyester, so it's stronger. So I can just give this a little tug, and then I'm going to kind of hold it so that it can't come undone on me here. And then I'm going to take my needle and just shove it in somewhere. Pull this through. I'm just showing it who's boss. Okay, so now I've got a knot in there.
You're the boss, Teresa.
I'm the boss. But if I let go of this, it's going to want to come undone again. So we're going to do these a few times. And basically what I'm doing is going from one side of that, where it got pulled in, to the other side. So kind of like one seam allowance to the other. And I'm just going to keep pulling it tight every time. And what this does is it helps hold it all together better. And none of the stuffing could come out because I'm kind of covering up that bottom part. Okay, so now I'm going to start doing it and knotting it. Okay, so I didn't measure how big this string was. I lost it. The thread was before I started. But you want a nice big long one so that you can, I don't know, we're going to do this again.
Do you want me to take a tour of the studio while you're...
Yeah, probably.
Okay, great. Well, she's going to rethread that. You're going to let me know when it's done. We're going to check out all these fun things. Oh.
See, all you had to do was look away.
You're welcome.
See? That's all. Okay, just don't watch. But if you have a long enough thread, then you can use this to also sew it to your hat. Okay, so this is my 4th knot that I've done here at the bottom. So I've done, I don't know, 6 across and then 4 knots. So it's not coming out. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew it on here. So I will pull that out just a little bit more. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave that kind of tucked in just there, because now there's a little kind of a thick spot that I'm going to use as the base to hold this on. So I'm going to kind of go around that and then come over here. Pull it up, do that again. Okay, and now it's not gonna, like the thread isn't going to come out the end because it's around that thick part too. And then through the pom-pom. We do this a few times. Get that on there nice and secure. Okay, and depending on, you know, how rough the kids are, you'll know to sew it more, or, you know, a few times is okay. Okay, so get over here. And now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to knot this. So I'm going to take it, stick it in, do a little knot.
These would 100%, excuse me, make 100% make great indoor snowball fight snowballs.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so I've knotted it twice, and then I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to stick this, and then I'm going to come out another side, pull it out. and that will get the thread to hide inside of my pom-pom. Okay, now I'm going to give it a little squish, and there we go. Ta-da!
Ta-da! Easy
So there
peasy
we go.
lemon squeezy.
Easy peasy. So it is a little bit smaller than the adult one. So let's put those side by side so you can see the difference in the sizes. Okay. So it's a little bit smaller. The head circumference isn't a huge difference, but it is smaller. But the whole thing is just a little bit.
That was really a misconception that I really, until we did a little research on head size circumference, that the difference between like a 5-year-old's head and an adult head is almost none. It's like an 1.5 inch different in circumference.
Right.
So
right.
yeah, you're basically born with the full size head.
Right.
And then the rest of you has to grow into it.
Any mom knows that. Like
point.
Yes. Yeah. Their heads are big. And they stay large, and they start like when they're babies, like their heads are so oversized. So I mean, yeah, I don't know. You could probably shrink this down a little. Maybe the 100% would be a baby size. I need somebody to try that. Somebody who has a newborn or, an under one. I want to see it. Okay, so you can see the pom-pom is bigger. The ball is, like the pom-pom is bigger on both of them. The bigger one makes a very fun size. So we were talking about that it makes a really good, like kind of a snowball size that you can bring these in. And are you going to throw it at me? Don't throw the snowball at me.
We're going to see if I can multitask.
You can juggle while you film.
That would be a no.
Normally he can juggle.
No.
But not one-handed while holding a camera. It's a good try. Good try. So we had, so that's it. Super easy project, guys. Super easy. So we did have a few other things because, like I said, we only have one other like Christmas time holiday themed one that we want to do, and we have done a few in the past. And we saw a really cute project. I think it was just this morning that you saw it, right? Over on I Love Cuddle, that Tamara had made the little snowballs.
Oh yeah, with the embroidered faces.
Yeah, so I have seen these before. Embroidery Garden, who is our BA, Reen Wilcoxon, she has a little pattern for it, as well as Planet Applique. So if Adriana, if you can put up the little snowball one. So these are the two different patterns that we know of that are out there to make these little snowballs, and you could do them with some of your leftover Luxe Cuddle with the Dazzle. It'd be super cute. You can also do it really easily with the Cuddle 3. So if you've got white Cuddle 3, super duper cute. And I know Embroidery Garden has like 6 or 7 different varieties. So there are some other projects that we've done. If we can kind of scroll through those. What's the next one? So the stocking is a free pattern. You can get that on our website. So again, free patterns at the bottom of the home page. Go over to that page, and then if you hit all patterns, see all patterns or something like that, you'll find these really easily. Okay, so the Christmas stocking. Then we've got the Santa pillow, which is also a pattern. Okay, and then we've got the Christmas tree skirt, which we did do a tutorial for as well with this pattern. So if you are interested in making one, it makes, you use like 6 wedges, I think, to make this. And it works really well with a wide variety of fabric and has just such a yummy, luxurious look.
And that one ends up being double-sided.
And it's
right?
double-sided.
Reversible.
Yep, reversible, exactly. And then we have the snowman pillow, which is a fun applique version. And we actually have this in 2 different tutorials. One where we show you how to kind of manipulate it and make it on your embroidery machine, how to set up your own embroidery machine. We did that last year at Green Sew and Vac in Medford, Oregon.
Oh yeah.
And then we did the Cuddle snowman pillow itself, just regular applique, maybe 3 years ago. I think it was the first Christmas. So both of those tutorials are out there, as well as the free pattern.
What's going on with that little hat? I seem to remember there being something with the hat.
The hat is a separate pattern, and if you go to the blog, you can find the hat pattern.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. Yeah, so the hat pattern isn't in the snowman pillow pattern, so you do have to get that separate. And it was kind of like a little special, So if you look for any of those patterns, as well as, like I said, the tutorials are there too, so you can absolutely get walked along with it. The applique or the stocking pattern, the pattern that we have is different than the tutorial, because in the tutorial we use the AccuQuilt die to make those stockings,
Oh,
but it's
yeah.
basically the same thing. It's just that the AccuQuilt cuts the piece out, and in the pattern, we give you a pattern for it to cut out yourself. But otherwise, the construction is all really basically the same.
But if you
Okay.
want to make a stocking for 20 grands, maybe the
Yes.
AccuQuilt die.
But maybe the AccuQuilt die. No, totally. It does make it very quick and easy, I will say. So both of those, so it's the same tutorial can be used for whether you're using a die or you're using the pattern. It's the same construction. That's a really fun one to put some cute novelty cotton inside, or if you've got some silky satin, that makes a really nice lining as well. So anyway, so those are some fun Christmas projects for you. I really want you to sew all the stuff. I'm going to make a little Santa. I'm kind of excited. I was cutting out pieces this morning. You don't know, Hawk. I see that face that he's like, what are you talking? I have plans. So please show your Christmas projects, your holiday projects. If you're making anything for Hanukkah, I would love to see it. I need to make that dreidel because I found a dreidel pattern. Anyway, holiday time, let's make the stuff. If you have not joined us over on I Love Cuddle, I would really recommend that you do that, and you can share your projects over there, which is super fun. The other thing I wanted to remind you of is that we have classes, and we still have them going on even here at the end of the year, and then they'll probably take a break for a while because they usually do, and then start back up next year. And if you're interested in taking classes with myself or any of our brand ambassadors, go to our website, go down to the bottom, and you can find a tab for events and education, and there'll be classes that are online, which are usually Zoom classes, and then in-person classes as well. Okay, so make sure you do that. I think that's it, and then we just need winners.
That's it.
Right?
That's a show.
Okay, so our winners today are Jean, I can't read that. Pitzer and Lori McConkey Negrosinski. You know.
We don't know how to pronounce your last name, Lori, but we know you. Hi.
Sorry. I know who you are, and I totally have pictures of you at a festival. So congratulations. We're very happy that you won. So for those two of you who won, these are like the things I'm like, I cannot pronounce names all the time. I should let you do it next time, Hawk. So if you have won, so Lori and Jean, please email us info@shannonfabrics.com. Send us your mailing address and your phone number. We'll repeat it every time, and your phone number. Okay, so we need both of those to be able to send you the package. We will send you a yard of each fabric so that you can make your own Santa hats, and you can make a few of them, or any of those projects that we just showed you. A lot of these fabrics will work for that too. So you could make stockings and hats and all sorts of fun things. Also, the infinity scarf pattern is super great. You can use that. 'Tis the season to be cranking out the infinity scarves.
The team infinity scarf that requires two fabrics in these two would be very
great,
festive.
Right? So there's lots and lots of free patterns over on our website. So please do visit them. So please email us, those of you who won. If you didn't win, watch again, share again. We'll get you someday. Okay. Thank you so much for joining me. Is that it? Are we done?
That's the show. Thanks,
so
everybody.
Quick and easy, you guys. Thanks so much for being here. I look forward to seeing all your Christmas projects over at I Love Cuddle. And we'll be back in 2 weeks. Next week is the product preview, which Julie will be showcasing some of our fabrics over there from the LA offices.
It's a mystery.
Okay. It's a mystery. All right. So until we're back, December something, the second week of December. Until then, happy sewing.